What's up, guys? Bruno Aponte here. I'm super excited to be bringing you guys this video today. It's a tutorial on how to do cover art. We're going to be going over how I made Fake Love's cover art for Tattedup Fi. Over the past few weeks, I've been getting some really great feedback on the speed art that I've been posting on Instagram, and part of those questions have been requests to do a technique video or a full length tutorial. So I figured now that we're stuck home for the next 100 weeks, it's the best time to start doing some content for you guys. So let's get right into the swing of things, because I know this is going to be super informative for some of you. Let's get it going. All right, so now we hopped into Lightroom and I got my catalogs of selects opened up. I got these few images that I narrowed it down to, and I opened up the very first image that I knew I was going to use for the artist because he chose it himself. I pre-masked it for the sake of saving some time, and now we're going to open up a new canvas at 3000 pixels by 3000 pixels. We can now take our masked image and drop it into our canvas for the cover art. We'll change the image into a smart object so that we can preserve quality when we resize it. I resize it to where I feel like fits best, and that looks about right. Now we can hop back into Lightroom and open up the second image. This image I also pre-masked in order to save some time. And so then I dragged that one into the composition. I converted it into a smart object so I could resize it without losing any quality. And that looked about right. So then I changed the blend mode into difference. And then I looked around to see if the second layer was going to look any different, but ultimately I left it on normal for the blend mode. And so that pretty much left me happy with the double exposure effect that I was going for. I went into my hard drive and I looked for the clouds that I was going to be using in the artwork on the background. I dragged that image into the canvas and I placed it behind the images of the artist. I changed it into a smart object and I resized it to where I felt like it looked best. And then I moved that layer ultimately above the images of the artist and I changed it to screen and added a curves adjustment because I knew that I wanted the clouds on the artist and in the background to be separate. So the way for me to achieve that was having two sets of clouds. And so I duplicated the clouds image, I put that back into the background, I changed the blending mode back from screen to normal, and I was satisfied with that. So I decided, all right, let me move on to blending that double exposure. So now, I used the gradient tool and I played around a bit with the mask. I also realized, well, let me use a clouds brush so I could give some more style to these masks while I'm blending it. And that was starting to look a lot better in my opinion. So we'll just speed past this masking and come back when I'm finished. Awesome. And so at this point, I know I was pretty much done with the cover and I wanted to focus on the fonts, the name of the artist, and the title of the song. So I looked around for a little while and stumbled on Wolf's Bane 2, which is the name of the font. That aesthetic of the font looked best with the difference blending mode that I had on it. I ended up repositioning it so it could be more legible and also duplicating it because the difference blending mode made it pretty dark. So once I duplicated it, it turned white and it was far more legible. At that moment, it was time to move on to the Fake Love title of the song. And by request of the artist, he actually wanted the Fake Love text to be made out of clouds. So I took some creative freedom to find a font that best matched what he had sent me as a reference. And appropriately enough, it was actually called All the Way Up to the Sun. So at this point, after I found that font, I made a new solid color layer. I filled it with white and I changed the opacity down to about 50% so that I can mask in some of these clouds with the brush. This was all done on the solid color layers mask. It took a little while, so I'll just fast forward to when we finish with this and we'll come back to see how it ultimately looked. Awesome. And so that was the final result of the font. I felt like what was missing was maybe adding some clouds right behind the font in order to have it stand out a bit more because it was getting a bit washed out. And even after that, I realized, well, you know what, that's probably not going to be enough. So I decided, since the artist already had found some font that he liked and he was interested in using as reference, I went ahead and got online. I downloaded the font. It's a paid font, and so it comes in a bunch of files. you have to open up each letter individually. So I did that. I found all the letters, I opened them up, and I placed them into a composition. I lined them up nice to where I felt like it looked okay. And then I brought these letters into my composition for the cover art, and I lined it up with the text that I had. I resized it a bit just to make sure that it matched well. And I grouped together the brush text that I made. I put that group onto a light and blend mode. After that, I took the font that I downloaded. I put its blending mode onto luminance. I moved the clouds in between the two fonts, and I changed the blending mode onto hard light. At this point, I was done with the cover. All I needed to do was add the parental advisory notice. So I looked for it in my hard drive. I resized it. I turned it into a smart object first. I placed it where I felt like it fit best. And I changed this blend mode onto divide, and I felt like that wasn't good enough. So I also added a gradient fill on an adjustment layer. I clipped it to the parental advisory layer, and I changed its blending mode onto lighter color. And great. So here you see I was finished, and I wanted to go through a few color styles just to give the client some choices. We ultimately ended up going with the original one that I created, which is this that you see right here. And I was super excited about how it came out. Well, that was all for me today, guys. Drop a comment down below, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Over the next few weeks, I'll be rolling out a lot more of these technique and full-length tutorials. So let me know what you guys want to see in those videos in case I didn't cover it in this video today. Peace, guys.